Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back with another video from last week's daily racing in the heavy rain, and in today's video we're going head to head with another YouTuber, Super GT. So it's a best of 3 in this race. We've got 3 races to show you, and yeah, this was a really fun week. One of my favorite weeks in a long time, I have to say, for daily races. It was really hard, really difficult to drive, required quite a little bit of patience on the throttle, but yeah, a lot of fun. If you do enjoy these videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and let me know in the comment section what you thought of this race. So starting the first race, we're starting from behind Super GT. You see he's on the right hand side in the Audi R8 in the Taylor Swift livery. I'm in my NSX for this one with my livery on. We've got a Porsche in P2. So the Porsche, bit of an awkward car, this car, because at the start of the race it was fairly slow. Steve goes for a really nice move there, putting himself up to P2, so we're now in P4 with the Porsche in front of us. So yeah, the Porsche was a lot stronger at the end of the race, I think, in terms of the ability of the pace, but at the start it seemed to understeer a bit, but still pretty competitive round there. It seemed like they were the 3 cars that you could really compete with round here, was the Porsche, the Audi R8 and the NSX. The NSX and the R8 fairly close, I think, for overall speed. But you can see going down straight, the Porsche is going to go for a move on Steve in front of us there. We're getting the slipstream and we're just going to brake early, because if anything, we want to see if they go a little bit, you know, side by side, lose a bit of pace, give ourselves a bit of room so that we can actually make a move and maybe see if we can find the gap up. We find a little bit of a gap here. We're going to try and send it up the inside of the Porsche. However, we have to give the space on the outside, and that means we cannot get on the throttle early enough, which is really frustrating. In these wet conditions, you've got to be so patient on that throttle. Now, into this right hand corner, we're going to try and hug the inside as much as we can and then get on the power nice and early. And again, early upshift to 3rd gear, try and rotate the car into this left hand corner and see if we can just get a nice run on that Porsche. Now, like I say, at the start of the race, I do think the Audi and the NSX were better than the Porsche for overall pace of lap pace, but then towards the end of the race, the Porsche does come back a bit. So it was really important that we needed to try and get ahead of that Porsche as quickly as possible if we want to stand a chance of it, one, catching up the leader, which the leader is already quite far ahead. You can see he's approaching 4 seconds in the distance, so it's going to be very, very difficult if the leader's got good pace to even think about catching him up. But yeah, maybe to try and get a podium position or P2, we do need to try and get rid of that Porsche as quick as possible. But you can see it's just so difficult in these conditions. But I have to say, like I said earlier, this was one of my favourite weeks. I found it so enjoyable trying to control the car in the wet, and I know wet racing on Gran Turismo is probably not the most realistic, but realistic doesn't always necessarily mean fun. This is really enjoyable once you get the hang of it. It did take a bit of patience and getting used to the grip levels and how to drive the car with the throttle, but once you got the hang of it, some of the racing we had this week at this combination was possibly some of the best I've seen in a long time. It was actually really well behaved. I have to say credit to everyone who did these races in the lobbies we were in. It was really well behaved because the racing was brilliant. But yeah, we're going to skip ahead to lap 3. We're still behind this group. You can see P3 has got very, very close to Super GT up there. Will he go for a move? It's all down to slipstream. Let's see what we do. As we get down the straight, we get a bit of a run on P3 also. P3 is getting the slipstream to P2, but it's not really going to be possible to go for an overtake. You can see we're going to go to the right hand side, mainly just so we can see the braking point, because in the spray, it's very hard to see where you're going. So I tended to move over to the right hand side just so that I don't miss my braking and hit the car in front. It just, you know, we weren't in a position to go for a move, so it just gives us that line of sight into the corner again. Fast forward in the action as we're getting very close to P3. On the exit here, you can see extremely close to the rear of that Porsche. We've got a bit of a run. We're going to go to the left hand side of the track. He does cut that off. I think that was fair. And we're going to then go into this left hand corner and try and keep it nice and tight. Early upshift to 4th gear on the exit here. You see that early upshift there, just to stop the wheels spinning too much and just trying to get a good solid run out the exit. But you can see once you're in the slipstream to another car in front, this is the thing in the wet, it is very difficult. It also absolutely kills your tyres when you're in the slipstream because you're spinning them rears up more. So you've got to be so patient on the front. You can see the car sliding around in that dirty air, and obviously with the spray as well, it's very difficult to see where you're going and spot them braking points. And braking is essentially so important in the wet. You've got to get it within an inch. In the dry, you can afford one, you know, a little bit late, a little bit early, whatever. But in the wet conditions, you really got to hit your braking markers to maximize the pace, because if you go 1 foot late on the brake, you are not making the corner, and that is how difficult it is in the wet conditions on Gran Turismo Sport. But like I say, it is really fun and enjoyable. As you can see, we're going to get a run now through this really fast left-hand corner, trying to go upshift to 5th gear there. nice and early to get the exit speed from the corner. We've got a nice exit. We're going to go for a bit of a fake up the inside, and then we're going to lift off the throttle briefly there just to get a bit of a run into this corner, and he gives us a space. He's going to try and hold it on the inside, which we give him the space, and now we're going to go side by side on the start straight. The NSX a little bit better momentum out of the corner because we came from a wider line, and we've got that position up to P3, but you can see the gap, nearly 2 seconds to Super GT up ahead and over 4.5 seconds to the leader. So we've got a lot of work to do in this race, but at least we're up into P3. The Porsche is going to try and go for a run on the exit now and try and get a better exit speed than us from that corner. However, obviously with the momentum out the corner, he's now got the dirty air, and that Porsche will struggle a bit with traction. So through here, flat out as much as we can, a little lift, then back up to 5th gear early. However, we run very wide there, almost picking up a penalty, and we actually do pick up a penalty there, half a second penalty, and that is really frustrating. So we're going to go to the right hand side of the track and defend this line into here, because we need to try and hold on to this position and basically keep that Porsche behind us, because we cannot afford to let the Porsche get ahead of us again, because we'll lose so much time. So going side by side through here, we managed to get ahead into the apex, and we managed to hold on to P3. So now it's going to be vital that we push and try and build that gap up, so that when we take the penalty, that Porsche is not able to get back ahead of us. Now with all this is going to give Steve and P1 quite a bit of a buffer in terms of time that we're going to have to push to try and catch up. And obviously we've been in that dirty air, so our rear tyres are starting to suffer a bit, and it is really noticeable when you see the difference with driving in clean air to driving in the slipstream. Your tyres are so much better. It's the same with this week's daily race C as well at Le Mans in the X 2019. When you're in the dirty air, your rear tyres really die, but when you're a solo, it drives so much smoother, and that is the difference, just trying to save them rear tyres. So again, on this long left-hand corner, really pushing now. We've managed to break the slipstream to P4, which is essential because, like I say, we want to get rid of that half a second penalty, and we don't want to lose the position, because if I lose that position to the Porsche again, we're probably going to be stuck behind him for the remainder of the race, because his tyres will start getting a little bit better on the last 2 laps or so over the NSX. But we're fast forwarding the action as we come to the end of lap 4 and start of lap 5. And you can see we've actually caught up Steve quite a bit on that lap at the end there. I think Steve had a bit of a scruffy lap, but we also set a personal best, a 2 minute 43.3, so a pretty fast lap in these wet conditions, and that is the fastest lap of the race. So yeah, Steve had a bit of a scruffy one, we had a really good lap. That was vital, so we're probably going to be okay now when we take the penalty. So very close to picking up the slipstream to Super GT in front of us in that Audi R8, and it's just going to be a case of now trying not to lose the position. We should be fine though as we go through here. Just make sure we don't get another penalty. Nice and smooth, early upshift to 5th gear at the top of the hill, and that just stops the wheel spin too much as you come to the top there, and work our way to the penalty zone. So put the brake bias all the way to the rear, because that will help you lose a little bit less time in the penalty zone. Don't go on the grass in the wet conditions, because you'll probably end up spinning. So now we can see we've lost about 3-4 attempts there to Steve there. We're 1.5 seconds behind him. So we've got to do all that hard work again. We did manage to catch it up though before. We went from 1.8 to about 9/10 of a second in 1 lap. However, that was a very good lap that we did. And luckily, we've kept the Porsche pretty much out of that slipstream range. So he's not really going to be a problem for us now. We can just concentrate on trying to catch Steve up. So looking on the replay camera, you can see just how close this race is. We've got Steve there in the Audi R8, myself in the NSX, and we've got also the Porsche with another driver right behind him. So this is actually a battle with 5 cars here. I didn't realise this at the time, but we actually had more cars right behind the Porsche behind us in this battle. So very close racing in the wet, considering we're 5 laps into this race. And again, it shows you why we all love playing GT Sport, because the competitive nature, how close it is at the front, is absolutely brilliant racing in this daily race seat in the wet conditions. So again, trying to keep the car smooth through there. We gained 3 attempts on Steve so far in this lap, so we have caught up on a couple of attempts there. We're going to skip ahead now to lap 6, and you can see we're getting very, very close to the slipstream. We're around, it's just it's fractionally outside that slip, and every time we do get in it, we pick up a little bit of dirty air in the corner. So you can see we're almost in it, and when we do manage to get it, we just get that little bit of oversteer from obviously the rear tyres losing grip. You can see we're trying to really push it, driving it to the maximum. Steve absolutely driving brilliant in these wet conditions, and it does show you, like I say, what Super GT can do when he puts a bit of practice in. I do think he would be well up there in terms of overall pace if he played this game constantly like ourselves. So yeah, into this long right hand corner, you can see trying to get on the traction as early as we can. We're almost getting in the slipstream. We actually managed to pick it up briefly, but as soon as we do, we lost the rear, and that means that Steve now has got that little bit of momentum out of the corner, and he's just got outside that slipstream. So again, the slipstream is 7.5 temps, and we're just fractionally short of it. it's so difficult to get into it in these conditions at the end of the race when your tyres are like this. You're trying to push and you end up overdriving it. But yeah, into the braking zone, trying to get it nice and smooth on the brakes, make sure you hit the marker, down to first gear, hit that corner perfectly there. Steve hits that really well in front of us, and now it's all about trying to get the traction from this really tight corner as you're putting that power down over the line. And we're now on to the final lap, and one thing you'll notice is just how much we've caught up the leader in this race, considering how far behind we was. Both myself and Super GT have really started to make gains on the leader, so if this race was a little bit longer, I think we would have started to put pressure on that leader, because our pace was actually pretty good. You can see 2 minutes 43. The last lap was a 2:44. That was a bit of a scruffy lap, but back into the 2:43s on lap 6. And the purple sector there on sector 1, and you can see we're almost again into that slipstream. So trying to keep it nice and smooth on the power through this section. Early upshift again to third gear there to try and dole that power a little bit, and then getting on the throttle as early as we can, using a bit of the curb but being cautious on that curb at the same time, and then braking nice and early for this right hand corner. You can see just how close we are actually to P1. We're almost under the 3-second mark now to the gap, and that's pretty insane. That shows you that our pace since we got past that Porsche has been pretty good, and we've obviously managed to catch Steve up. Now we're in that slipstream there, we've managed to get right in it now. So this is going to be awkward though, because this long left-hand corner, you don't probably want to be in the slipstream, because it makes it very, very difficult when you're trying to put the power down. You can see as we come through, you're going to see the car starting to slide around a bit. That's why we're in 4th gear, taking it nice and smooth. You can see 50% throttle. Not as soon as we go to like 70-80% throttle, the car just starts to twitch around a bit. But yeah, managing to stay in that slipstream, gained up to 4 tenths behind him. And if we can just try and stay in the slipstream for the final corner, onto the straight there, we might be able to get the slipstream and go for a move. So this is going to be pretty intense, but a big moment on the throttle there, couldn't get the traction down, and then into this right hand corner, just lost all grip. And yeah, that is pretty much the chance of picking P2 up over in this race. So yeah, fast forward in the race now to the final corner. You can see through the final corners, all we've got to do now, all Steve has to do now, is just make sure he hits his brake marker. And yeah, that was race 1 over, and Steve manages to take the P2 in that one. I managed to take the P3. So that's 1-0 to Steve in this battle. But yeah, we went again, and we tried to set a lap time of 43.0. However, we accidentally set a lap time a little bit too fast. We did it on stream. We made a massive mistake on the lap, but it was still a 42.5. So yeah, we managed to jump ourselves up into P3, and now this time Steve is in P4. So positions reversed, and let's see what happens in this second attempt at a daily race C. Now, one thing with the Audi R8 and the NSXs, they're slightly better at the start than the Porsche. You'll see the Porsche slightly bogged down on the left-hand side. So you see straight away, we get away and we get a bit more momentum than that Porsche. You can see it now starting to bog down. We've got the line up the inside, but we brake a little bit too early to go for that move. You can see that P2 brakes quite late. I take it very easy. I didn't want to take anyone out. So nice and smooth on the exit, putting that power down. P2 has a massive moment there in that Porsche, almost losing the rear. And yeah, it's pretty much how it started. P1, P2, P3, P4 on the grid. Now P1 is a very, very fast driver at this combination, and with him already having that gap, it's going to be incredibly difficult to try and catch him up. But yeah, let's see what we can do as we go over the top of the curve there. And again, we've picked up half a second penalty, so that is a little bit frustrating, but we're going to try and get past the Porsche. We've got the run on the outside. Can we manage to go round the outside and do what we did before and build that gap up while he's in our slipstream? So again, trying to go around the outside. We've got quite good momentum. However, we brake a little bit too late. We're on the curb. He squeezes a bit to the curb there. There's a tiny bit of contact, but it's great racing. And again, we have to back out of that corner and tuck back into P3, because I think we would have ended up losing both positions then. So yeah, holding on to P3, nearly got ourselves up to P2. But again, absolutely brilliant racing in this daily race in these wet conditions. So again, keeping it nice and tight. We're trying to think of a way to get past this Porsche. Like I say, it's very difficult because that Porsche had very good traction. So in the wet conditions, it was very hard to try and get a run on him. So again, out the corner, you can see the Porsche getting really good exit speed. It wasn't as fast through the corners, though. You can see that even though we're in that dirty air, we're able to hang right behind that Porsche. And again, following him as closely as we can all the way through these sectors here, and then onto the back straight in the slipstream. Again, being cautious into this fast left-hand corner that we don't run wide and pick up dirty tyres for this final chicane. And again, we got very close on the end of lap 1 there. You can see we're in the slipstream, 3 tenths behind P1. Maybe we could go for a lunge here, but would it be worth it? You can see I have a little look up the inside, too far back really to think about that. Just make sure we hit our brake marker and get the car rotated and on the power as early as we can. Now we're very, very close to this Porsche now, so what we need to try and do is stay as close well, we want a bit of a gap really, so that we pick the slipstream up at the top of the hill, and then when we take the penalty we lose as little time as possible. So you can see again we're getting our brake bias ready to change. You can see down to 4th gear, then up to 5th gear at the top of the hill, and just about managing to keep it in the track limits this time. And we run almost wide there, almost picking up dirty tyres, but just about managing to keep it in. So we're going to go to the right hand side of the track to take the penalty so we don't get in Steve's way. And again, you can see brake bias 5 to the rear, just to lose a little bit less time in the penalty zone, then back to -4 to save them rear tyres. And you can see there, we've done a swapsy there with the penalty. So Steve managed to get a penalty at the top of the hill, and now next lap on, we're going to hopefully do a bit of a swap around and get ourselves back up into P3. So again, Steve's going to take that penalty, and we've got the momentum behind him, so as he's going to take this penalty we should go straight back past him. So Steve takes the penalty, we're going to overtake him, he goes, and we're back up into P3. So swapping around there on 2 laps, but now we've got to see if we can push on for P2 and try and get past that Porsche. The Porsche's got a bit of a gap there now, so it's just going to be a case of pushing as hard as we can. You can see on the replay camera again just how close this racing is there, as we've got the Porsche in front of us, myself, and then Super GT in that Audi R8. And again, that spray kicking up. And again, look at this replay view. Absolutely love these replay cameras on Gran Turismo when they're on the floor. I hope they have a few more of them on GT7 because they look absolutely amazing. So again, trying to keep it nice and smooth. We're trying to get in that slipstream. You can see we're getting closer to that Porsche now. So it's just about trying to pick up that draft for the straight and see if we can go for a move somewhere. So again, pushing as hard as we can through here, again through this long left-hand corner, being very smooth on the throttle. You don't want to overdrive it in these conditions because you will absolutely destroy them rear tyres. So again, onto the back straight, you can see we've got quite close already. We've actually got the slipstream and we're within 3/10 of him now. So pushing quite aggressively here. We're going to try and go for a move here maybe. No, decided not to do that. It would be a little bit risky. He's held quite a nice defensive line into that corner as well, positioning the car just off middle, and that makes it very difficult to go for a move. So if you're watching, that is a perfect defense. Just putting the car right, just pretty much in the middle of the track, just to make it really awkward for the car behind. Very good defensive driving from the Porsche. So again, having a little look up the inside there, but again, too late. Just trying to put him under a bit of pressure at the moment. Into this right-hand corner on the throttle as early as we can. We've got Steve right behind us, and we're trying to put pressure on P2. This is going to be interesting. Can we find a way past him? But again, what brilliant racing. And like I say, people, we all complain about Gran Turismo, but at the end of the day, you won't find many other console racing games with this level of driving on. It's just so much fun, and we all love, at the end of the day, we're still all playing GT Sport for the reason that is the competitive nature, and that is why we can't wait for Gran Turismo 7. Now we've got the run on that Porsche, and we've actually got really good momentum. You can see we've got a massive run out the corner, and we've got quite an easy move up into P2. And now it's just going to be a case of making sure we slow the car down and then just holding the apex a little bit here so that he can't get the momentum on the exit. And again, we just got to position the car on the exit here to get a good exit, and then go defensive to the right hand side just to stop any thoughts he's got of going for a move. So we put the car into the middle of the track and then just make sure we brake nice and early for this right hand corner. So now we've got past that Porsche. It's a case of can we break the slipstream to that Porsche, because like I say, the Porsche does get a little bit stronger at the end of the race in these wet conditions, we notice. So out the exit in 3rd gear, putting the power down, and you can see we've actually got that gap up to 4/10 straight away, nearly half a second. So again, if we can get around this left hand corner as well as we can, we should be able to get ourselves up into up ahead of the slipstream, not into P1, because P1 is 4 or 5 seconds ahead. So pretty much out of reach there. But you can see we have done a 43.2 in this race. We do have the fastest lap, so our pace was pretty similar to P1. We did know that from, I think, a previous race we had done, but with that gap, it's pretty much impossible to catch someone up as fast as P1. He was doing lap times of like 43.1s and 2s in races, so yeah, we was not going to catch 5 seconds up in a few laps. But you can see the gap behind us, we've actually got the gap over 1 second now. So trying to get a good solid exit. We have a little bit of moment on the throttle there as we put the power down, but you can see the gap back up to 1.3, 1.2 seconds, and that was pretty much it. Once we got that gap up, we managed to hold the gap pretty steady to around 1.3, 1.4 seconds. And Steve also just could not find the way past that Porsche, because like I say, the Porsche at the end of the race was very, very competitive with the rear traction, so it was very, very difficult to get past. So luckily we managed to get that move done when we did it, and we held on for a very well earned P2 in this one. So that is going to be 1-1. You can see there as we come out the exit there, that's pretty much a good race there. We drove as well as we could, I think, there, and come away with a P2. And yeah, Steve comes home in P4, the Porsche in P3. Good drive by all drivers there. And yeah, another fun race. So we went again for one final attempt. Again, we're starting from P3. Again, trying to get a good start off the standing start. So the light's just about to go out, and you can see as we get on the throttle, we get really, really good traction this time. Much better traction than before. Porsche struggles, and Steve in the Audi gets a real bogged down start. So he suffers at the start. The NSX is going up the inside of him. Luckily, we don't get hit there, and we give a nice exit there. We give enough space to the Porsche on the outside, and we get a nice run, and we've actually got ourselves up to P2 at the start of this race. So that is going to be really, really important to get that we've got ahead of the Porsche that early, because like I say, the NSX at the start of the race was probably a little bit stronger. But you can see very close to the rear of our car there as we go up the top of the hill and trying to get a good solid exit. You can see we get quite a strong exit off the corner there, which is going to probably make it pretty much impossible for that Porsche to get the run on us. And I think he's pretty much just backing out there. He's not probably going to go for a ascent into the braking zone. You can see he's just holding back behind our slipstream. So we're just about in the slipstream to P1, and now we've just got to try and push and stay with P1 as much as possible. However, we have got that Porsche right behind us that is very, very close, so we're going to have to be a little bit defensive probably here. So through this right hand corner on the power as early as we can. You can see we slightly lost the slipstream to P1 there, but that's not a bad thing sometimes at this stage of the race when you're just trying to get in a rhythm. But a bit late on the brakes, you can see the Porsche is going to go up our inside there and try and hang it round the outside for this corner. Luckily, we get enough power down and manage to hold on to P2. So you can see Steve right behind there in P4. I think he's managed to get one position back. So after losing a few positions, he's back up to P4 and behind that Porsche. So this race is back on. Let's see what we can do through this long left-hand corner. Trying to hold a good, consistent speed all the way through there. You can see again with that fourth gear and being very patient on the throttle. But you can see P1 has managed to build up quite a nice lead on this opening lap. He's already up to around 1 second there, 1.1 seconds ahead. So yeah, pushing really crazy in that Audi R8, driving very well. And now we've just got to concentrate on trying to lose the slipstream to the Porsche really, so that we can start concentrating on lap times, as we've got no dirty air now, so the tyres should look after themselves a lot better now that we've got that no slipstream to lose that grip and momentum on the exits of the corner. So we'll get much better traction while we're in this position now. So you can see out the exit there, we've got the gap up to around 6/10 and very close to losing the slipstream. So all we've got to do is really push now for another lap or so and try and break that. So into this left hand corner, down to 4th gear, early upshifter back up to 5th gear and try and get the momentum on the exit. And you can see again quite a good exit there into the braking zone, braking just short of that white line, and now onto the brakes and in 1st gear, trying to rotate it through. You can see P1 goes a little bit deep, I go a little bit deep. The Porsche behind us actually does that quite well, and he's going to get quite a good exit speed, and we get a little bit loose on the exit there unfortunately. So again, very close to us behind, so we've got to try and make sure that we get a very good exit from the top of the hill, again coming out of this right hand corner, and try and get a good exit all the way down the hill and going up the hill, so that P2 and P3 can't get in our slipstream. You can see in the braking zone, however, the Porsche does look like he's made a mistake and he's almost lost that slipstream, but he is just about managed to stay in there, I think just around 6/10 behind us. So again, as we come down here, a little downshift to 4th gear, then back up to 5th gear as we go up the top of the hill, and just trying to get good momentum. We actually do that reasonably nice there. We run a little bit wide, but we managed to take quite good momentum, and we should be okay for the next braking zone, although that Porsche is going to get the slipstream all the way along this straight and be around 3/10 behind us again as we get to the braking zone. So make sure we brake nice and early. We don't want to over brake it. Again, looking at the replay camera, you can see just how close this is. We've got P2, P3 right behind us in the Porsche there, and Steve right behind in the Audi R8, all just trying to keep it nice and smooth through here and just trying to make sure we don't make any big mistakes. So again, into the braking zone, P1 building that lead up. You can see P1's lead is probably around 1.3 seconds now, 1.4 seconds. I go a little bit deep on the brakes there. You can see having to go a little bit defensive to the Porsche and getting a little bit out of shape on the exit as well. You can see the NSX almost sliding through the corner. Absolute brilliant racing though again here at Spa, and I hope we have another wet race before GT7 comes out, but I very much doubt we will. This is probably the last wet race we'll ever have as a daily race. Maybe in the FIA season we'll get a wet race, who knows. It would be good, because I have to say it was so much fun driving this NSX in the wet. So yeah, into this corner now, you can see we've got the gap at around 3/10. It's extremely difficult to try and break the slipstream to this Porsche behind us. He's driving very, very well, and he's also got Steve right behind him, but managing to stay with P1 reasonably well at the moment. We're just around 1.3 seconds behind him. We're not really getting dropped by P1, although P1 was a very, very fast driver. We know that from previous races, and again, trying to get on the power as early as we can out of this corner. You can see this is a corner, if you get it right, you can normally break the slipstream to the Porsche, and it does look like we've almost managed to do that there as we work our way onto the straight, and I think we've managed to do it and got away from that slipstream from the P3 driver in the Porsche. So that was really, really important. So now we can concentrate on just lap times and driving consistent and driving smooth and trying to stay with that Audi R8 that's in front of us, which is going to be very, very difficult because he's driving extremely well. So into the braking zone, this is going to be vital that we don't make any mistakes. Keep it nice and smooth here, hooking that apex up pretty much perfect into the apex there on the throttle. Nice, so you can see 50% throttle, and we actually get a really strong exit from the corner, and we've got that gap over 1 second now to P3. So from this point onwards, it was pretty much plain sailing. I think the Porsche held Steve up a little bit in this race. We managed to push on for the final lap, and we actually managed to catch up to P1 and was pushing like crazy to try and get in the slipstream. You can see our lap times were constantly 2 minute 43 laps. We were driving incredibly well in this race, and we were pushing like crazy to try and put P1 under pressure. You can see almost picking up the slipstream again like we was with Steve, but it's at that difficult zone where at the end of the race with the tyres, when you've pushed like crazy and then you start picking up that dirty air, it does get very, very difficult to drive. You can see every now and then we got the slipstream, but then as soon as we got it, we were going to lose it on the exits of corners. So again, the Audi R8 was very, very fast in certain corners. The NSX was faster in other corners. It was like there was two different zones of the track where the cars were slightly better than each other. But through this long left-hand corner, the Audi was tending to be a little bit faster. But we managed to hook that up quite nicely there. Early upshift to fourth gear and just trying to stay with them as much as possible. You can see we've got enough of a gap to the cars behind, so we don't really need to worry about losing any positions behind us. But looking behind us there, it looks like P3 has actually made a huge mistake and maybe spun it or something, because Steve has now got himself up into P3. So that's pretty good for Steve. So we're still in P2, trying to go into this braking zone again. This is where we lost control before, trying to get the power on as early as we can. And you can just see we're really struggling to put the power on. We got the slipstream, but however, as soon as we got it, you can see the car just didn't want to grip. And unfortunately, again, that was pretty much the last opportunity we had of an overtake. But some pretty good driving. We managed to catch up to P1 and 3 really entertaining races. I think some of the most really enjoyable week, like I say. I think a lot of people enjoyed these races when we did it live on stream. So if you want to check out these races live, they are on the channel, I think. So you can go back and check them out. It would have been the wet races in obviously Spa. You can see it on the live stream. So yeah, I'll try and find the link if I can and put it in the description or in the comment section for the live stream. But yeah, some really enjoyable races. We managed to hold on for P2 over the line. Pretty fast finishing time as well, 19:10 considering we started from P3. So that was pretty good. And yeah, an enjoyable week of racing that was at Spa in Group 3. But yeah, if you do enjoy these videos, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of the racing. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed them battles there. Some really good racing going on between all drivers involved. But yeah, I will see you all for more videos and live streams as soon as possible. Bye, everyone.